Welcome to Pyramids of Mars UFO Radio. We are here at the Alien Cosmic Expo in Toronto. It's February. It's June
23rd.
It's
2018.
June 23rd.
We're in a time loop here.
We're in a time loop. Yes. And I have with me Susan Collins, and she is a personal management consultant, and she is a professional dowser. And she just did a presentation not too long ago, and I had the opportunity of meeting with her last year and seeing her presentation, and she introduced me to the world of dowsing, and it really opened up a lot of doors for me to literally opening up doors.
Yeah.
It does open up doors to our conscious to help us be able to guide ourselves with higher knowledge of what we already know, but the tools help to enhance that knowledge, basically. And she's going to explain exactly what dowsing is all about. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Susan, thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I am thrilled and honored to be here. I first started working with the alien energy about 4 years ago, and the reason I got into alien energy was exactly through dowsing. And dowsing is the use of tools that move, that amplify our body's own knowledge. So we often have a hunch, we have an intuition, a gut feeling, but sometimes in a crowded environment where there's many different influences, it's hard to know, well, what's the truth? Is this information coming from me or externally? Mm-hmm. So dowsing is a modality that helps you really get a sense of what is out there. I use a protocol. I always say any idiot can pick up a pendulum and make an answer go. Mm-hmm. But how do we know we're getting truth and where are the answers coming from? So I have, over the years, I've been teaching this for about 15 years, developed a dowsing protocol based on the many teachers I've had and based on my own experience. And it's a way of safely entering into a space where you can safely interact with different types of energy. Mm-hmm. So one of the first things I always do is to align myself with the divine source. Because if you douse without using some sort of protocol, it's like answering the phone or dialing a random number and taking advice from whoever answers.
Right.
So in my estimation, there are many different types of consciousness. So you and I can see each other. We're in physical form here, but our senses, the regular 5 senses, we don't hear much, we don't see much. The 6th sense is the electromagnetic sense. And that's really the place where the power of dowsing comes in, because we can detect variations, subtle variations in electromagnetic energy. So many people dowse. I do professional well location. So I still go out with a pair of sticks out on the land, and I find a place to drill a well. How can I do that? Because I can, not every time, but I can say 78 feet down, 6 gallons a minute. How on earth could I know that with dowsing? Moving water sets up an electromagnetic radiation. And just like I can tune my electromagnetic sense, my 6th sense, to dial into, well, what does that feel like? So when we listen to music, you can tell, is that a guitar? Is that a saxophone? When we smell food, we know that smells good, it's going to taste good, or it doesn't smell good. So with training, which dowsing, with daily practice with dowsing, we can get into a place where we are able to sense different variations in electromagnetic energy. Okay. So it's been around forever. I say this is the birthright technology of humans. If early people could not find water, they would die. And even in the Bible, it talks about Moses going and striking a rock and finding water, which is really, I think, a story about dowsing to find water. And there are many traditions. Of being able to find water. And to me, that's still the greatest honor, to go on the land and to be able to interact with nature, with the earth energies, to the point that I can find that. Mm-hmm. So my practice is in 3 areas. One is to detect earth energies, which includes water. The other is detecting environmental energies, which would include Wi-Fi, for example, or different types of food may agree or not agree with our body. So everything is frequency, everything resonates. And we each have a body frequency that resonates, And the trick is to find the foods and the products and the environment that make us healthy. So one thing I talk about in my presentations, which people can relate to it. At 29, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. My hands were claws for the next 23 years. They didn't open or close. I was on diclofenac, chloroquine, prednisone, and methotrexate all at the same time. And I had, all kinds of Western medicine applications and alternative medicine applications. But it wasn't until I found dowsing and learned about energy resonance that I was able to alleviate my symptoms. And now, it took about 5 years, but within 5 years I was symptom-free and drug-free. So my mission now is to teach people to use this very simple technology, a little moving pendulum with the power of the head and the power of the heart and the power of the gut. Use this technology to do good, really, in the world. Heal ourselves and to heal the community around us. Heal the earth. It's a huge potential. People don't necessarily recognize it as a modality. It's like a hammer or a screwdriver, whatever. It's just the tool we use to interact with different types of energy.
Right, yes. Yeah, I completely understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So people sometimes ask, where do the dowsing answers come from? People sometimes think, oh, is it my higher self? Is it angels? Is it aliens? So I believe there are a variety of different types of conscious energies. So you and I are sitting here in physical form and we can speak, but in addition to us, there are many interdimensional types of things. So that, bluntly, there are dead people floating around who didn't pass through. There are space people floating around who are here for whatever reason.
There's multidimensional beings.
Multidimensional beings. Some of them are simply nature spirits. Yesterday when my presentation was on orbs, and someone asked me today, they told me the story about at a relative's funeral, there were many orbs in all the photographs, and they wondered what that was. A question I asked, and it's always interesting, there is no one right answer. There's a series of questions one goes through. Tell me the circumstances, tell me who took the pictures, tell me what was going on. And it seems in this case, even though it was the funeral for a man, the orbs were all around the widow. And then, so it could be, under a different circumstance, if the orbs had appeared among all the family members, then you'd say, well, perhaps that's the energy of the dead father. But they only appeared on the mother. Wherever she was, there was an orb. So that led me to think, and we didn't dose it out, but it led me to think that it's her emotional state is creating this. So orbs can represent an emotional state. So in a loving couple or at a wedding, you'll see an orb sometimes between the people. Or my niece took a picture of my mother once, and my niece was only 3 or 4. My mother was very elderly, but the orb showed up over my mother's heart because she loved this child. So we're taking pictures of emotion as well.
I didn't know that.
And I've written a book. I've written 7 books, 7 or 8 books, somewhere in there. And part of my mission, again, it's a legacy effort to teach people what I've learned. It's taken me years, so we're in 2018 here, so it's about 20 years. I was on a long journey, a long self-healing journey from the time I was 29 to 45, of basically being crippled, that I couldn't walk, my immune system shut down. I could walk, I could hobble along, but I was not a functional adult, if you will. And I dosed my age, because that's another thing we could do. We can use dosing for various things. My physical age when I was 29 was in my 70s. My body was the body of a 70-year-old. So now I dose my physical age, and that's about 10 years younger than my actual age. So that's something that we can do. We talk about self-healing through identifying the blueprint that we came in with. So people who have congenital health issues sometimes have their cells are reproducing the same flawed way. So their blueprint is not perfect for good health. So we can revise the blueprint so that cells reproduce against a healthier template. And then over time, as the cells reproduce, we get healthy again. So last summer, I got sick for a while, and then I found I had a hearing loss. I started developing tinnitus and had a high-frequency hearing loss. And I went to the doctor, I got it checked out, and they offered me hearing aids. It's like, well, let's see what else we can do. So I researched the physiology of hearing and the ear, and through focused intent and understanding the physiology of hearing, I was able to restore my hearing and get rid of the tinnitus. Except when I wake up in a hotel room, for example, and they've got Wi-Fi, I have tinnitus again. So people underestimate the impact, the really non-beneficial impact of a lot of our technology. So Wi-Fi, the smart meters, we live.
God, yeah.
Oh God, yeah. So we live in, if we live in a city, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to be healthy in a city. So I use my dowsing tools to stay protected, but also, for example, in the hotel, I wear protective clothing, but I sleep at night. So it's I'm not associated with this company, but lessemf.com is a place you can buy protective clothing, protective cloth. You can get paint, and we can even though if somebody lives in an apartment, you can take steps to isolate yourself from the Wi-Fi. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So it's earth energies, it's environmental energies, but then it's the psychic energies, and that's really where most of my work is at this point. So people generally, on average, have some psychic imbalances in their field, and that's the way I ask. As an example, there's something called psychic cords, which are energy attachments between people or between places or between objects. I have clients who will sometimes say, I was a happy person until I moved into this house, and now I cry every day. So there's something about the house, whether it's the earth or environmental or psychic energy. Sometimes people will bring an antique into the home, and it has energies attached to it. Or you go to the second-hand store and you buy used clothing, and it's like they should put the sign up, dead people clothing.
Right.
So you don't really know what energies are attached to that. Another interesting thing with dead people energies, if we can be blunt, is with organ transplants. If you do surgery and have an organ transplanted, a kidney, a liver, lungs, heart, any organ that has had a lot of blood flowing through it may retain the memory of the donor. So you'll hear this anecdotally that once, so-and-so had the lung transplant, then they crave different foods, they like different musics, and there could be personality changes.
Oh, wow.
So we talk about the brain and the head. There's also the brain and the heart, the brain and the gut. So these are all, the Egyptians had it right. The Egyptians, when they mummified people, they kind of threw the brain out, and they paid special attention to the organs. So it turns out the brain kind of directs us. Like we set our intention, we get an idea. The brain is pretty much powerless to do anything. It's like it's the steering wheel, but there's no engine. The heart is the engine. There's a huge electromagnetic pulse coming out of the heart, and that's really what's driving things. So people talk about the heart connection, being open-hearted, and these are good things as long as one is able to protect oneself. So the other big piece of the puzzle in all of this, because we can, through dowsing, we can access all these types of energies and information. And with my clients, some of them, and they are juicy morsels. So we have different types of energies out there, different types of conscious energies. Some are beneficial, some are non-beneficial, some are neutral. And for those gifted people who have the open heart and a sensitivity, they can be visible in the other realms, and they can be easy prey for various types of energies passing through. So I say there's nothing bad, there's nothing evil, but some things are in the wrong place. So we're here in a human state on the planet, and this is who we're supposed to be now. And there are other types of energies that want to express themselves through physical human form. So there's something called walk-ins, which is where the original soul checks out, and another consciousness checks in.
Like my friend Hildegard.
Yeah, she mentions that. Yeah, she talked about that.
Yeah.
So that can be beneficial or non-beneficial. But usually what I work with, I only work with people who come to me for help. So the people who are fine with that, they're not coming to me for help. But some people are deeply confused by their compulsions. Because sometimes it's not 100% takeover. It can be a percentage takeover. So one of the things we look at is what is the percentage of the original human soul in the human form. So not the percentage of soul, because you can have multiple souls in there, but what's the percentage of the original human soul meant for this body? What percentage is there? And if there's maybe 20% that's something else, then we can communicate with that, and with agreement from the human, the client. Nothing is ever done without permission and request and all of that. But sometimes these extra soul pieces, they're only there because they don't know how to get home, back to where they're meant to be. So we have a huge variety of things that we do with dowsing, from finding water. I find gold up in British Columbia, do self-healing with the physical body, and then healing on the psychic body as well, looking at past lives, future probabilities.
How can you use dowsing to look at that? How does that work?
Future probabilities, I use a plus-minus chart. I don't have one with me, but it's like a protractor. In the middle is neutral, and on the right side is +1 to 10, and on the left side is -1 to 10. And we check our accuracy that way as well. So for looking at future probabilities, and I use my dowsing tool, all the time I'm working, I have the tool running. But right now we're talking, so I'm not actually dowsing. But I would say, for example, if there was something in mind that you wanted, if you're making a decision about the future, should I pursue this job? Should I pursue this relationship? What's the best? Where's the best apartment? Whatever the question is, you frame the dowsing question based on. Now, when I sigh, I'm kind of going into my different zone. But you'd say based on information, known and unknown, taking into account current trends. Please show me the overall benefit of action A. So maybe it's a job or it's a house or whatever it is. Please show me the overall benefit of taking action A. And then you take your plus-minus chart and say, the benefit of action A is only a +3. So let's say it's a job. Is there another job with equal or better benefit for me? I get a yes. Okay. It's a series of questions that we ask.
So the pendulum will actually swing over a measuring area?
Yeah. It's like it's a paper chart.
Yes.
And I just use the edge of the table quite often. Oh, you could use your hand even. So let's say the middle finger is neutral, and then the right fingers are plus, and the back to neutral, and then the left fingers are negative. Yeah.
Okay.
So the overall benefit to me of drinking water, I get a high number, +10. The overall benefit to me of drinking ketchup, it's a negative number. So that's an extreme example. But the more you practice...
I don't drink ketchup either.
No, seriously. But you never know.
Tabasco sauce. Maybe way on this side, like on the positive side. But
yeah. But you can check that. Or if you've got a headache, you could ask, okay, is there something that I'm eating that is creating the headache? I get a no. And when my shoulders go, that's part of, because I was sick for so long, I have learned not to take any of this energy into my body. And that's why I use the tools. Some people say, I don't need tools. I can just douse with my body. And that's nice if they can do that. But I was so sick for so long, I'm not going back to that. So now I ask the tool to give me the information, not my body.
Right.
Although in an emergency I can finger douse or do whatever.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You were showing me something about that last year. Yeah. But I figured I want to get a dowsing tool myself so I can get more correct answers.
Well, it's not the tool. You can use anything. Like you've got your vendor badge on.
Oh yeah.
You can use your car keys. So the tool is like a hammer or a screwdriver. Like you've probably got your favorite hammer or whatever that you use. The power of it is in the protocol, which I may have given you before.
No, I don't have this.
Don't you? Well, you've got that one now. And for your viewers,
zooming on that. No, you gotta buy it.
No, you don't have to buy it. If your viewers or listeners would like a free copy PDF of the protocol. I will send it to them. Send me a email, Susan@Dowser, DOWSER.ca, Susan@Dowser.ca. Put protocol in the subject line, and I send that out to everybody as a freebie.
Okay. All right, so we'll do that. Well, we'll have that as well on the archive page, because you'll be on the archive
That's
page.
excellent. So my website is www.dowser.ca.
Okay.
Susan Collins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got all that here. We'll have all this information.
All that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's it's the wonderful world of dowsing,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't seem to know about it. They think it's hoo-hoo, the Olympics of woo-woo or something.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as like a match, like it's like fire, it's a hammer. It's just a tool.
It's a tool
that you can use to help yourself.
to help awaken already the knowledge that's already inside you.
Yeah.
Or the knowledge that's attached to the collective or the Akashic records.
Or even just to get parking spaces.
Huh?
I always start people off on easy stuff. So if you need a parking space, you can use your dowsing to create a parking space. So when I first started doing that, I'd be going into the mall, it's very busy, and there'd be a parking space and another car would go in. So I said, no, I've got to make this better. So I would ask that I would have the parking space. So I'd get the parking space. And then over time, so I want a convenient parking space. And then so I could get people to give me their unexpired parking pass and the parking space.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm really practical. Like, God bless the universe, but we're here as humans, and we need parking spaces, and we need to eat, and we need money. The big thing, money is our friend. There's a lot of cultural context that money is evil or something. And it's like, no, money is our friend. And one of the big affirmations that I worked on for years, we are worthy of respect, love, and money. And that's a hard one for a lot of us. But I did it, all the time. Creating the reality, just as they all say, create your own reality.
Yes.
As humans, we're here to make choices, and we choose to step into our power. Or not. It's the blue pill and the red pill.
Yes.
You can either stay asleep, and I have met people, because I teach a lot, and they are gifted, but they find it uncomfortable, and I say, well, you can choose to give this away. If you don't want to do it this lifetime, you don't have to. And some people do choose to give it away, and then they don't really know what they're doing. They say, oh, I just felt something weird. It's like, yeah, you just lost it. You just lost it.
You just lost an opportunity.
You just lost your opportunity, but if they're not ready...
If they're not ready.
Yeah, people... That's why we need to talk about it more. That's like shows like yours are so important. Let's have the conversation. Let's go on the air and say, this is normal. So part of my thing is to represent as a really normal person. Even though I wear, conference clothes.
I love this, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
I have a wardrobe of conference,
Yeah.
The main stage kind of stuff. But most I show up at people's houses, and I'm just a really normal person. So I'm a personal management consultant as well, and I do contracts and buy and sell houses, helping clients. Another really practical thing, I'll have a client who will say, my house has been on the market for 3 months. I need the money because I've already purchased someplace else. Help. And I will go in and look at the energy of the house, look at the energy of the real estate agent, just check the energies. And if we can remove the energy blockage, we can facilitate the sale of the house. Sometimes that happens within 24 hours.
Well, you ever run into a situation where there was a negative experience that happened in the house, and
Absolutely.
the house was put on market?
Yep, absolutely.
And how do you deal with that?
Well, as with anything, if there is, okay, this is getting to be the longer answer is, often there are, and in a hotel room, or in the lobby, wherever we go, many, many things have happened. And if we dose, yes, there is non-beneficial psychic energy here. There's 2 questions to ask. One, is it a continuing source of non-beneficial energy? Or 2, is it a residual source? So a residual source would be something that happened last year, last week, or 10 years ago. And it's easy to remove. Once you identify the source, you can clean it up. It's just like, you get your scrub out stuff.
Weight eraser.
Yeah, you're Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean weight eraser thing, yeah.
Yeah, one of those things. So that's pretty easy. If it's an old, like an antique, for example. Some people may say put your antique in storage or burn it or something. You don't need to do that because it's very likely not a continuing source of non-beneficial energy. It's just a residual source. So you clean that off. It's just like you polish it up. Sometimes I say what I do is spiritual house cleaning.
Was it you who said it? Somebody was talking to me recently about they were working with a client with the same kind of thing, and there was an antique mirror that was left in the house when they moved in, and that was creating all this negative energy in the house.
Yeah.
And they told them take it out, break it, and burn it.
That's the old school answer.
Okay.
The new school answer is you just transform the energy.
Oh.
You just take it off. So we've evolved. Dowsing has evolved a long way. It used to be if you found an earth energy in your bed where you slept, they'd say, well, move your bed or move your house or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the old school approach. The new school approach is, well, you transform the energy. So dowsing is detection. Oh, it's there. And transformation. Oh, let's make it beneficial to whoever's there.
Oh.
Which reminds me that humans have a certain energy. Cats have the opposite energy. So people with cats for a pet, when they go home and they clean balance the energy of the house only for them, they'll make their cat sick. Dogs have a similar energy to humans. Horses as well. If you have ants in your house, ants are the opposite. Ants and cats and honeybees. So if somebody's raising bees, you want to put it in exactly a place that is toxic for a human. But that's good for the bee. It's good for the ants. It's good for the cat. So whenever we're balancing a place, who lives there? And what's going to be beneficial for everybody? And we can create an ever-changing, this is part of the protocol that you have now. Step 8, we create an ever-changing energy matrix that automatically adjusts to the most beneficial energy for the individual occupying the space. And the same with creating food as well, because if we've got a family we're cooking for, everybody's got different tastes and allergies and whatever. So how do you, in one pot of soup, if it's most beneficial for one person, is it non-beneficial for the other? No, you can use your energy system, douse an energy system, that the soup is automatically created in the most healthy way. So Mother's Chicken Soup, because it's made with love, is actually a healing product. The stuff out of a can, maybe if Mother pours it in the bowl, but the homemade food, it's made with love.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons that it's healthy for us.
That's cool. I always knew that.
Like we know these things.
Yes.
I always say when we hear the truth, we remember it. You go, yeah, of course. And if you listen to speakers and podcasts, and honestly, you can tell who's full of shit and who's not, because you can feel it. Does it resonate in the heart?
Yes.
Or you can use your plus-minus chart. Please indicate the degree to which this speaker or this person or this car salesman, please indicate the degree of truth this person is presenting. Please indicate the degree of resonance with the divine source that this person is bringing in.
Yes, and I've had my experiences at this conference too, where the people who I'm resonating with, who I definitely need to talk to, and then there's others where the energy is completely deflecting. It's a complete, dissonance.
Dissonance, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with them, maybe, but it's not your path.
It's not my energy; it's on my path. Yes.
Yeah, like we are kind of tribal in that way. We recognize each other. So I meet lots of people, and I go to a conference, and everybody smiles at me, and I just smile back because maybe I know them. It feels like I know them.
I've had that too. All weekend long, people like saying hi. I'm like,
hi,
Al. I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember, okay, I recognize you, and I don't know you, but I recognize you, and I don't know you, but okay.
Yeah. So I don't say it's nice to see you again. I just say it's nice to see you.
Yes. Yes.
And Facebook friends too, and a lot of people on the radio. I never meet them. I never see them. And clients, I often just do by Skype or phone, and I don't even know what they look like. But I highly recommend for anybody to check out Dowsing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very simple modality. You can apply it to so many things.
Mm-hmm.
It's so powerful. It's the birthright technology that we can all use.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here in this moment at an alien conference. And honestly, I have been communicating with aliens for years. And the folks around here find that they can't even get their heads there. They can't even hear that we're already doing it. It's a mystery to me. You know, we can only lay out the information, and then we see who hears it and who sees it.
Who hears? Yeah.
Yeah.
I ran into a guy downstairs, and he has had some UFO experiences, but yet he still holds on to fear.
Yeah.
Because I told him I can tell you how to make contact, but he says I'm not ready for it. He says I'm too fearful. I know that if I saw something freaking out in the mirror, I'd freak out. Or in the
Exactly.
But I tried to explain to him that's because of the conditioning of what you've been conditioned to. He said, you're right, because all the movies I watch are evil aliens. I'm like, that's because they want you to be at the lower vibration.
That's right.
To control you. That's how they have always controlled you. They don't want you knowing that you have star family, so they're going to tell you that they're evil, because then they can keep you down low and you'll be fearful of them, and then keep that barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, but once you have to raise yourself up to a higher vibration of unconditional love, of non-judgment, of acceptance. And actually, I found this on Facebook the other day, talking about that unconditional love is not an emotion; it's a multidimensional field. And they had a picture of a person with you inside a Merkle book. I'm like, it makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. I call that compassionate detachment. So I don't even go to love.
Okay.
It's compassion, though. I see you're there, and you don't get sucked into the rabbit hole of the thing. Mm-hmm. But you can see the problem, but you can still act, even if it's extraordinarily toxic. We don't need to react with emotion. I see you there. I see you have a problem. I used to think everything was out to get me, and then I came to realize that stuff trying to get my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
But getting back to the fear-based alien experience, this is one of the things I think is going on with the orb photography that so many of us are doing, because a lot of people are taking pictures of orbs, the little fluffy things, circular blobs and photographs, and nobody's afraid of those. So I think this is a transitional manifestation to prepare people. Like it's widespread. I teach all over the world. Everybody's taking pictures of orbs, and they, oh, how nice! I've got an orb in my photograph. They get excited. The next state of the orb, after the membrane state, is a plasma state. So the orbs break over, and there's a plasma state, which then can shapeshift into things. So depending on the culture, that thing will shapeshift into something that is acceptable to the culture that it's in. So in the Celtic tradition, you see leprechauns and fairies and elves. In many in the alien community, people see aliens in a form that meets exactly, the TV pictures, the movie pictures. And it's like, are they really that form, or do they just telepathically say, oh, these people think aliens look like that, I guess we'll show up that way. But right now they're showing up as orbs, some of them. Some of it's just emotion, some of it's nature spirit. But I think there's an attempt to soften. Plus there's stealth now. Like a lot of the ships in back in the day, in the Renaissance and earlier times before we had mass communication, there's plenty of art that shows alien craft.
Yes.
But very isolated. Nowadays, with communications we have, there's so much instant communication that that does create panic. And I don't think the aliens want to panic us. So in my experience, they tend to disguise themselves as clouds.
They do. They disguise their ships as clouds. They use cloud cover.
The clouds, the ships. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, they do. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
They've told me. Shirley's told me.
Okay. Well, I dose that stuff too. So when I've experienced that, I just got a cool breeze coming in. It's kind of interesting. So in the native tradition, and I know this is air conditioning, but in the native tradition, when a wind comes in, it's the presence of spirit. So that's kind of a fun thing. So I'll take that as a confirmation. The timing of spirit, of air, inhalation, inspiration coming in, that generally speaking, these things do not want to panic us. But with dowsing, we can see that they're there and we can safely interact. And the ones that are not meant to be here, we are the guardians of the planet. We are the guardians of the galaxy. It sounds so hokey, but one of the reasons these movies are so popular, Guardians of the Galaxy and Star Wars and Star Trek, is that there's a deep place inside of us where we know this is true. That yes, we have the Jedi powers, without it's disguised as fiction. It's disguised as the story, but it's our generation's oral tradition. Back in the day, we'd sit around the fire and we would tell the story of the beings that came down from the stars. Now we tell the story in the movie theater, and that helps us. But as you pointed out, the very frightening stories aren't conducive to human evolution. So we have to hang on. We have to bind together, hang on to our.
They sell movie tickets, unfortunately, and
they do.
it's in the wrong hands.
Yeah, and all the video games the kids play, it's the opiate. Anyway.
Yes.
So all we can do is the work we do, right? We stand in our truth. We do the best we can, and if anybody listens, that's great.
Yes, those who resonate at the right vibration, who feel it, we're there to take them to where they're already at and higher.
Or to wherever they're meant to be.
Or where they're meant to be, yeah.
Because last year, when I spoke at the Alien Cosmic Expo, and my topic is, what do aliens want? When I speak, I flush energies out. Two women came to me that afternoon and said they had been possessed during my speech. And what had happened was that they had some onboard alien energy. And in my speech, it separated out from who they were and removed. So by the end of it, they were gone. But both of those women were singers. They were, one of them was an opera singer, the other a music teacher. And it occurred to me at that time that the higher frequencies may not be the safest place for us as humans. So I've been teaching people since last year to go deeper into deep ohms. Like, don't try to reach a higher frequency. Go for the appropriate frequency. Maybe the appropriate frequency for the individual is a higher frequency. But for a lot of my clients, I try to get them back in their body. You have to be a human before you can transcend into something else. A lot of people are off here, there's a woman yesterday I was working with, and she was all crown chakra except a little bit in the root chakra. So, and the chakras in between weren't even activated. So to be healthy as humans, we need to get fully back in our bodies. So I do these deep belly like the Tibetan, the multi-tonal Tibetan bowls, the crystal bowls, and the toning, the overtoning. It's vibrating all the frequencies through the body to bring health into all our chakras, into all our energies.
Right.
Yeah. But the short form is to say into the higher frequency. A lot of people say that, but where I'm going these days is go to the frequency that's best for you for good health for the human body. Because these bodies have to last us a long time. And it's an exciting place to be.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Absolutely fascinating, and just learning more and more from a much deeper level for sure.
Good.
Absolutely.
Well, it's my honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, folks, this has been this is the Alien Cosmic Expo 2018. I've been speaking with Susan Collins. She's a professional dowser, and once again, people can find you at
my website, www.dowser, dowser.ca. Send me an email, susan@dowser.ca. Put protocol in the subject line, and I'll send you a free protocol of that I use and how to dose as well. So to get you set up.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right. Nice.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
Yes. This is Kevin Estrella with Pyramids on Mars UFO Radio, and keep your eyes to the skies.